All right, everybody, we're going to call the Caddo Parish Commission work session agenda to order. It's May 4th at 3:35 p.m. Roll call, please.
Hopkins,
Here.
Johnson, Jackson,
Johnson
Young.
present.
Young, Burrell, Commissioner Burrell,
Here.
Cawthorn,
Present.
Gage Watts,
Present.
Taliaferro,
Present.
Atkins,
Here.
Chavez,
Here.
Lazarus,
Here.
Epperson.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. Greetings, Commissioners. We're going to have our invocation by Commissioner Epperson and our Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Hopkins.
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us for our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thou art the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. You stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Thank you, Commissioner Hopkins. Deputy Clerk, do we have any agenda additions?
I have none.
All right. Do we have any citizens' comments?
Yes, I received one citizen's comment from John Glover. And her statement says, my comments are for the visitors section and thank you. Item 11.1, authorized introduction of ordinance number 5957 of 2020 prompts questions. 1, what specifically is being considered with this ordinance? 2, is the funding $300,000 predicated on approval or being awarded the information noted in the ordinance? Item 11.2, authorized introduction of ordinance number 5958 of 2020 prompted questions needing attention. 1, why and what prompts a resubmittal of Southern University's proposal for $250,000? 2, if funds are not readily available via the normal process, would the transfer of funds from the oil and gas fund address this request? If so, why? 3, what will the impact be to the oil and gas fund if this consideration is approved? Item 14.2, ordinance number 5951 of 2020 prompts a question. 1, why is this item being considered for appropriation when this event did not take place at the specified time? Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity 84th Province Council, March 25th through 28th, 2020, due to the coronavirus. And that was the only citizen's comment that I had.
Okay. Deputy Clerk, can you email me those citizens' comments? I'll research them and get Ms. Glover the answers.
Do you want me to email it to all commissioners or just you?
All of them, please, so that everybody else can see them as well. Some valuable questions.
Okie dokie, will do.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
question relative to the comment that we just read. Is that you did say that's a female, you said her, right? Is that name spelled J-O-H-N?
I believe it's J-O-N for John Glover.
It's J-O-N.
Okay, J-O-N. Okay,
Yes,
and
sir.
also is that individual a person of the media or within a publication?
No, she's not.
Thank you.
She does live in the glorious district of 10, I can add.
Okay, we have no visitors. Move on to report, administration report.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
President, it's my understanding, I may be wrong, is that she's affiliated as well, I don't know what you call it, a reporter or a pundit with the Inquisitor.
Oh, that would be news to me. No pun intended. I do often see her as an advocate.
Now, initially, she was just a citizen, but it's my understanding that different individuals have been solicited to do reporting and writing articles for the Inquisitor. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. That's a job. But that's my understanding. That may not be true, but that's my understanding.
Commissioner Burrell is actually correct. I just received an email. She does now write for the Inquisitor and maybe a couple of other publications. So it's news. Again, no
Okay.
pun intended. Thank
Just
you.
wanted to clarify, Mr. Chairman.
All right, moving along to administrator report.
Yeah, good afternoon, Commissioners. The only thing we report today is that we are working on a return to work plan, and we fully expect if the governor does not extend his moratorium that's on stay at home, we are gearing up to return back to work, and more than likely his order will expire on May 15th. So we will be looking to gear back up fully back at work on May 18th, which is that first Monday. And other than that, everything is going smoothly. All the services requirements are being met throughout the parish, and we are at work.
Dr. Wilson,
Yes, sir.
while you're giving the report, we were in a previous committee meeting and we were looking at funding Robinson Rescue. Can we just get an update, and if Kelvin's on here, maybe of how it's going over at CPAWS with the COVID scenario?
Yes, sir. I spoke to the team this morning, and we have a 93% live release rate. And we have been getting, we have not seen the volume of animals coming into the shelter as we have previously seen prior to the COVID, but they are still coming in. And I think we have less than 100 animals in the shelter right now.
93%. That's excellent.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The adoptions are still going on, still rescuing as many as we can. So things are going forward with respect to animal services.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Welcome, sir.
Point of information, Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
Back to what he's saying that we are starting to go back to work. Under the circumstances, will we go back in the same vein as we were before, or we are adhering to CDC guidelines, or what?
Yes, sir. It will not be business as usual, Commissioner Burrell. We have put in place HR has put together a flyer that emphasizes social distancing and all the things that we would have to do. We will be taking employees' temperatures coming through the door, and any employee that has a temperature above a certain reading, we would encourage them to go back home until they feel better. And if anyone is sick that we can detect, we will refer them to their doctors. And we will also be looking at perhaps rotating some situation where we can have some folks still working from home as we phase in and wrap up returning to work. And we're trying to limit the number of people in the break room. We're looking at a host of measures to make sure that we protect our employees as well as the citizens that we serve, which is our number one priority.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner Epperson.
Dr. Wilson, also, would you send us a copy of what you're all proposing?
Yes, sir.
I think we should have a voice in formulating this plan.
Okay.
Because we're going to have to interact, and we're going to have to let our constituents know what the process is. And hopefully there won't be any outside pressure that we will look at safety foremost.
Yes, sir.
On top of what the situation is, and don't be forced into an unsafe situation, based upon outside unfactual information and things of that nature.
Oh, yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, there's a myriad of things we have to consider, Commissioner Epperson. Not only that, the health and well-being of our employees. Some employees may be dealing with some issues that may be compromising to their health. So we would take those measures into account. And we will certainly scale back up gradually until everybody has a certain comfort level, and that we can ensure their success with respect to social distance requirements that need to be maintained.
And did I understand you to state that you had a proposal in place already, or you all were working on it?
Yes, sir. We have HR had put together a series of steps that we should take in concert with the CDC. And we will be rolling that out to every employee. I just did a video last Friday talking to the employees. Eric and I did a video expressing our concern about these things as they come back to work. And we will also be rolling that out. And I think Commissioner Chavez is on board to do a commercial as well, addressing the community aspect of what we're going to do. But we will certainly make sure you all are pretty abreast of what we are going to do with respect to bringing our employees back and the procedures that we'll be implementing. We have a meeting scheduled tomorrow morning at 10:30 with the city of Shreveport to talk to their team about how do we come back into the building and how do we optimize the safe distance between employees interacting, particularly those using the elevator and being in the common spaces. So we'll work all those details out tomorrow morning in our meeting. And we'll let y'all know what those details are as we complete them.
Well, look, I might want to do a video too once I get all duded up and the haircut and the shade. Don't leave me out.
Okay, we certainly take that in consideration, sir. Great, that's all I have, Commissioner Chavez. So anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. I don't see any other commissioners raising their hand. Deputy Nations will move along.
Okay.
Hold on a second. I actually see Commissioner Talafero.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Doctor, actually, you answered part of my question because we do share a building with the city of Shreveport. My only question is that obviously that, I guess, to be less confusing to our public, that the commission and the city pretty much have the same kind of plan going forward, since we do share the same building, and that way they're not operating on one set of rules and we're operating on another set of rules. And I'm sure that you guys will take that into consideration, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We will also involve the sheriff's department in that return policy as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, is
Yes,
there
ma'am.
any plans to provide masks for the citizens of Caddo Parish?
We are discussing that, ma'am, based on availability. And that's the problem right now. If we can get those extra masks, for those folks will have to come in and see us. And I think it'd be prudent on our behalf to give them a mask while they're up in our area. So
Yeah.
we just need to make sure we can get it. We're trying to get extra masks now from various sources. And we do plan on considering that in our plan.
Okay, I know we talked about it last time, trying to make sure that every citizen in Caddo Parish could receive a mask, because give out was great, but it wasn't enough. So we need to continue to be able to provide those masks to our citizens. So thank you for looking into that, and look forward to hearing more about that very soon.
Yes, ma'am.
I see no other commissioners on the board. Deputy Nations, we move along.
I wanted to say something. Yeah.
Sorry, OBJ, I didn't see.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say that we had a NGO meeting, appropriations meeting today, basically looking at the organizations that were allocated funds in 2019 for 2020. We identified the ones that have already been paid, and we identified the ones that have not been paid and will either be postponed until we get some further information about what their program is doing before we totally fund it, or do a reduced funding based upon the things that they said that they was going to do in their mission statement. We did come up with a number that I think finance is still working on that will fall under the money amount that's already in there, so we won't have to transfer any funds based upon that. But it will come up on the next work session and regular session to vote on that amendment that we did.
Vice President, is that all?
Yeah, John looking kind of puzzled by what I said, but we'll talk later.
Commissioner Atkins I think will like the outcome. It's about half on the budget. It looks like we're rolling right into communiques. So commissioners, if you want to get on the board for communiques. Commissioner John Paul Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. I received a phone call yesterday from Mr. Alan Berry, who's on the Zoning Board of Appeals. He's the most senior member of that board, and he's been serving for 12 years and has been the chair for 10 years. I'm not sure if he's presently the chair. And his term expired without him noticing, and he told me that ordinarily he would be perfectly happy to rotate off the board and let someone else have his spot. But the second longest serving cluster of members on that board have been serving for only 2 or 3 years, he said, and he was afraid that without him there would be a pretty significant loss of institutional memory and maybe a little bit of reduction in the smoothness of the meetings, because he had been sort of conducting them according to rules in a very orderly way. And so he offered to serve another term if we wanted to link him to that. And it was just an offer. He's not pushing for it. He just wanted us to know the situation and offered his services further. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think if you'd like, we can stick that on the agenda for the next coming meeting to appoint him. Of course, we'll vote on it and take whomever else, but
Sure.
Commissioner Roy Burrell.
Well, so there's the reason. Oh,
I'm sorry, hold on, Commissioner Burrell. Go ahead, John Paul. I didn't know you weren't finished.
The reason I brought it up was just because I saw an appointment onto the ZBA on our work session today, and I wasn't sure exactly the procedure of that, but I wanted to bring it up. Thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you, John. Thank you, Commissioner Young. Commissioner Burrell.
Yes, Mr. President. I received a call today from Pastor Wilson at Galilee Baptist Church. He was concerned about that there was a lot of traffic around where Galilee Baptist Church is. Plus, you have several of elderly complexes there. He was wondering whether or not or how he would go about soliciting, setting up a mobile testing site at the church location in that area, since he said that there's a lot of traffic that comes through there, walking traffic and that type of thing, and he didn't see them actually, I guess, following some of the guidelines. So he called the mayor, and the mayor referred him back to us. So I'm bringing it to the commission and see if they have any input. Maybe Steve might have something. I was gonna call Dr. Golly, but it seemed like he's been in communication with them, and I think it may be even in his district. I'm not sure. Galilee.
Yeah, I talked to him.
Okay.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner Jackson.
Oh yeah, I spoke to him, and I've been speaking with Jasmine, his wife. I think she has been either expecting the new baby or getting ready to have the new baby. I know they've been in a flurry, but I put her in touch with Connie Arnold at the medical school, and they have a team that's set up. And so it's funny you mentioned that. I want to say maybe 15 minutes ago, I was texting with Jazz. She texted me about it. And so they have a specific team with Dr. Van Cherry, who is supposed to be going out to independent residential facilities and things of that nature. Dr. Wilson, that's one of the things that I want to discuss tomorrow on the call.
Mhm.
is they're down to just one. They're down to one mobile unit, and I don't know if we have an extra vehicle we may be able to maybe donate or repurpose and maybe route. It's just something for us to think through. But they have one unit right now that's serving all of Northeast and Northwest Louisiana. And so maybe if we can put our heads together to try to see how we can, in a non-financial way, help surge what they can be able to do. And I'll speak directly to our success under communiques later. But Commissioner Burrell, I have spoke to Jazz, and I did put her in touch with Connie Arnold at the medical school, and they should be. If Jazz has somebody else she wants me to put her in touch with, because I know she's getting ready to have the baby, so she's kind of in and out on the text message. So
Okay, and I assume that that's just been recent, because he did call me just before, probably about 30 minutes before our committee meeting, which would be about 11:30 or 12 o'clock.
Yeah, Jazz sent me something at 3:39. I responded to her, but Jazz and we've been talking since April. We've been talking since April 15th. And so that's when I gave her Connie Arnold's number, but then Jazz kind of went off the radar. But again, I know she's getting ready for the baby. So she has somebody. I told her she has a point of contact to that I can work through. I don't want to overstress her or overwhelm her with expecting a child. So we'll work through it, and I'll give her a call when we get off this meeting to try to get it done. And I had Robert Bradford contacted me from over there as well. So it's a high priority. I think right now we've got to try to figure out the manpower to get them in that area.
May I ask, how many mobile units do we have? You said that we only have one.
There are really two, and I believe the medical has one. There are two. The Oshner's is utilizing one, and I don't think they want to go and ask for that back because Oshner's is serving a purpose. But then they have theirs, and the guy from Miles for Smiles reached out and said that his vehicles were available, his RV was available and could be repurposed. So that's a conversation. There's a work group, that's kind of a work group that's going to meet and put our heads together tomorrow to kind of discuss some things. Dr. Wilson and Mrs. Bryant will be on that call tomorrow. We want to make sure that we can get to as many places as possible in a very, very quick time period, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you,
That's
Commissioner.
all.
I see no other commissioners on the board. Moving along.
I just want to note that the certificate for teleconference is attached to the agenda. And now we move to President's report.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. I'll be brief, Commissioners. I'm sure you're all aware that Councilman Fleury is at Baylor today, just got admitted, will be receiving his treatment. I think it's pretty awesome that former Councilman Bradford is there with him. Please remember him in your thoughts and in your prayers. For any Southern Hills residents, if you guys have any issues, whether it be city or parish, feel free to reach out to me. I know Councilman Fleury is going to be very occupied, and as well as his wife, and I'll do the best I can to help you out and get you over to the city and get whatever help you need. But feel free to call me for any issues, and please don't forget Councilman Fleury in your prayers today. That's all. Thank you, Deputy Nations.
Okay, now we have no old business. We move to new business. Authorized introduction of ordinance number 5957 of 2020, an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Economic Development Fund to provide an appropriation for Project Grace.
Move to advance.
Second. Got a motion from Commissioner Atkins and a second from the chair. Commissioner Atkins, would you like to speak on your motion?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. As all of my colleagues know, this appropriation request is associated with a financial incentive to entice a call center to locate in Shreveport and Caddo Parish The proposal carries about 400 direct jobs with another roughly 90 indirect jobs. And they're proposing $2 million in capital expenditure for fixtures, furniture, and equipment. It yields a internal rate of return, or I should say, rate of return to the parish. An investment of 300,000 would generate an internal rate of return to the parish of about 18% with a 6-year payout. The dollars would not go out until job benchmarks are met, and there would be a clawback associated with jobs that are lost within a certain period of time. So this was taken through the Economic Development Committee last week, I believe it was, and it received a full endorsement by everybody on the committee to advance this to the full body for consideration. Thank you, Mr. President.
Point of information.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Burrell.
John, do you know how much those jobs are going to be paying?
23,500 roughly prior to benefits.
Breaking down to normally a call center to some old telephone man, they have a hourly wage. Do you know that, or do you just say?
I'm sorry, my data just shows that an annual salary or an annual compensation prior to benefits of $23,400.
Okay, that's for an 8 hours, 7 hours?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Commissioner Burrell.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I do see we have Mr. Martinez on the line. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Martinez, and thanks for putting this stuff together. I know John gave
you should know.
What was that?
Oh, I was just saying, you got him on the line. You should know. That's the econ man.
Commissioner Burrell, I was going to answer that, but I didn't want to interject in the meeting.
And I'm sorry, Scott, I forgot you were on, so forgive me for not recognizing you.
Commissioner Burrell, the baseline, the minimum these jobs will pay is $10, and of course they'll go up from that. This company has a history of promoting from within and has a good history with their workers in other locations. We are competing with 2 other communities, one in Florida and one in Texas, for this particular project. They're looking at multiple.
Okay, thank you. I just was hoping that we wanted minimum wage like a lot of the call centers have been. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Mr. Martinez, I think one point, although Commissioner Atkins gave a very thorough report, the dollars that are needed for this, because a lot of people have called and asked me from my district, when you guys don't have any money for Riverboat, is this smart to do this? Can you reiterate how the funds will not come out immediately and how the payback is going to take place?
They will not come out until they hire. So the way we put this before you, it was in 3 different disbursements. The first being after they hit the 150 threshold, they get a disbursement then at the end of year 1 when they hit that benchmark. The second would be year 3 when they add additional jobs. And then the last would be at the end of year 5. So this would be paid out over the numbers here. So the first payment, if they hit their 150 job benchmark, would be $112,500. The second payment, when they hit 250, would be $75,000. And then the third payment at the end of year 5, when they hit their 400 jobs, would be another $112,500 disbursement. Again, that's over 5 years as they bring the jobs online. So it's no upfront money. And then I would recommend that the cooperative endeavor agreement with the company have a clawback provision based on the percentage of non-performance. So no upfront money, they're paid out as they perform. That's what I would recommend.
Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, President Chavez. I appreciate Scott and John and Dr. Wilson for getting the information. I had a couple questions earlier and getting that information to me. Sounds like we've got it set up similar to what we have a lot of our deals done is it's basically pay for performance. And, just like we're doing with the medical school with the mobile testing, perform your work and then you build the parish. And I think it's been vetted pretty well. And we'll look forward, as we talk about, and Scott, maybe at some point after COVID-19 is done, we can talk about what our workforce will look like post COVID-19 with the impacts of the hospitality industry. I know that there are going to be a lot of people looking for something. It may not be ideal of what they want, but they'll be looking for something, and hopefully we can put our best foot forward to participate in this. Scott, you did not talk about the other partners involved. That you want to elaborate on who the other partners involved, or do you want to just keep that?
Yes, sir. This isn't the Caddo Commission going at it alone. There's significant incentives that are going to be provided by the state of Louisiana, as well as the Louisiana Workforce Commission for training. The city of Shreveport, we're also asking them to waive any permits and fees associated with this project, since it is in the city of Shreveport.
Mr. Chairman.
Again, thank you for answering those questions for me early, and hopefully we can land this deal. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Commissioner Epperson.
Yes, sir. I'd just like for us to be mindful that this is a public meeting and we delve too much in our strategies. We are in competition with others. That's all I have.
Point well taken, Commissioner. I see no other commissioners on the board. Ms. Nation's roll call vote.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Cawthorn,
Yes.
Gage Watts,
Yes.
Taliaferro,
Yes.
Atkins,
Yes.
Chavez,
Yes.
Lazarus,
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
We had 12 yeas on that.
Moving along.
Okay, now we move to authorized introduction of ordinance number 5958 of 2020, an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the Economic Development Fund to provide an appropriation for Southern University.
Move to advance.
Second.
Got a motion from Commissioner Jackson, I'm sorry, Commissioner Johnson, and a second by, I believe it was Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Could I make a substitute motion?
Commissioner Young, give me 1 second. Let me allow
Sure.
Commissioner Johnson to speak on his motion.
Okay, sure.
Okay, this basically went through the same Economic Development Committee meeting, and it was voted on in the Economic Development Committee, and it passed. So that's why it's coming to the body.
Commissioner John Paul Young.
Thank you. So I'd like to make a substitute motion to allocate, so there's 3 things that are being requested funding for. I'd like to make a substitute motion to allocate $50,000 for the nursing school that Southern wants to expand, and then not make allocations at this time for the other things that they're requesting. And if anyone will second, I'll explain why.
The chair will second. I'd like this explanation.
Thank you. Okay, so I was in the economic development meeting and actually cast the vote that brought this to discussion on our work session today. I didn't vote at that time for this proposal to be passed exactly as it was made. I wanted to finish our discussion in committee and then come to discuss it at the full body because it seemed like it had been dragging on. At this time, a lot of us feel that we should be cutting back on funding that we make for pretty much anything, unless maybe it answers short-term or long-term one of the needs that's raised by our urgent pandemic. The Southern University requests for money are large and a very sizable part of the budget that we have available. We sent the first request back after indicating that it was probably too big, and that some of the things that were requested were less attractive for funding now than they had been in the past. That led to the second introduction, or the second proposal, which was for the same amount, and didn't really have more specificity about what we were going to be spending the money on. So I think that probably the Republican caucus on our commission is not comfortable at this time funding the aviation school, and probably also the MS Kick any further than we have. I personally toured the MS Kick facility, and it's beautifully equipped, very well set up, and I think it's ready to run. And if it needs $25,000 more of purchases, it's, you know, I think they can do it with what they've got for a while. And then there was a second component of the MS Kick request, which is for COVID-19 relief. And they told us that they were providing meals to the neighborhood, hot meals, which are grab and go. And I think that's great. There are other places in the neighborhood providing meals, and we didn't hear back how many meals it were going to be, so we don't know the cost per meal. And then we also heard that perhaps they were getting the food from the food bank for free, and we fund the food bank also. So that might be a little duplicative. And then, so the reason I picked this number for the nursing school is just that nursing and expanding the nursing school downtown would be great generally. And specifically now during the pandemic, I think it is appropriate for us to make a gesture that we support the school. I think it's also appropriate for us to pare down the number because we don't really know how much money we have right now. So that's the reason I suggested this motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Commissioner Talaferro.
Yeah, just for clarification, am I under the understanding that the money will be coming from the oil and gas fund for the SUSLA requests?
That'll be
No.
a Haley Barnett question. Haley?
Yeah, the way the ordinance is written, the money will be transferred from oil and gas to economic development. They're just not currently, and with the future being so uncertain, there's just not the fund balance to carry $250,000 expenditure at this time.
Okay, so I know that in the last meeting that we did vote on basically a moratorium to give it a couple of months for everything to kind of settle down so we could get a better picture of our finances. Does moving money from one fund to another fund to fund a organization's request, doesn't that kind of moot our purpose for sitting back and you know, letting things kind of shake loose and see where we are regarding our financial position? And since their funding is through December, is there a big rush to go ahead and fund it now?
Commissioner Talaferro, is that a rhetorical question, or did you want Ms. Barnett?
I just needed some input, you know, because if we need to fund it now, I'd just like to know what the immediacy is. And also, if we placed a 2-month moratorium on funding anything, then we start moving money to fund stuff, and we're picking and choosing. Are we really doing are we doing us a disservice? And maybe I see it differently.
I'll get that question answered from Ms. Barnett on the funding date and time. Give me 1 sec. Let me get Commissioner Jackson, then Stormy, then Commissioner Burrell.
Yes, I was going to make an amendment to Commissioner John Paul Young's motion, make an amendment to advance the $50,000 for the nursing, and right now postpone the MS Kick and aerospace. And I guess if I get a second, I can speak to my reasoning for that.
Second.
Okay. I sent John Paul a text message asking him if it was okay if I could amend his motion. I think the MS Kick piece, and I haven't talked to Dr. Wilson and Haley and Erica about the information that I sent to y'all this morning about the local funding that's going to come from the CARES Act. A lot of that money will have to be COVID-19 related. It will not be able to plug budget holes. It will not be able to plug budget shortfalls. But if it's a project or an initiative related to COVID-19, we will be able to utilize those funds to basically reimburse ourselves for that. And I'm pretty sure that we will be able to do that. I don't know how much we will be getting, but I'm told that it will be a pretty significant, it'll be a 7-figure number that's going to come to the parish. And so I know we have our additional operating expenses and our emergency operation expenses, but I'm sure there'll be some left over. And I think maybe the MS Kick can probably be covered through that. I don't know, I haven't been privy to the information with the aerospace technology program, but I'm open to revisiting that. So maybe we just can amend it to postpone and table at this particular time the MS Kick and the aerospace technology funding, and give it some consideration once we know what our budget picture looks like. But I don't want to, stick a knife in it right now and have to start the process over from scratch.
Thank you.
But I'm okay with the 50 if that's what everybody feels is the most pressing need. I don't know. I wasn't in the committee meeting. I don't know what the highest need. Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Watts.
I have a question as well.
Commissioner Watts is getting back on. She just sent me a message.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and let Commissioner Burrell, and then I'll get Watts when she gets back on.
Me, Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I guess my question, since Steve is coming and amended John Paul's, Commissioner John Paul's motion, I guess my question would become, well, first of all, to Haley, how much is our fund balance in oil and gas? And going to Steve's amendment, why isn't the aerospace program of any priority at this time? I can understand the nursing, given the fact of COVID, and I'm sure there's going to be more of an emphasis on nursing. But why is the aerospace program not a priority? And I know that on the MS Kick, I saw a news report where they were feeding people from MS Kick associated with this COVID virus. So I guess there's several different questions. First of all, what is our fund balance in oil and gas? The second question is, why isn't the aerospace initiative a priority, since we're trying to push for additional jobs, and not just wait until the COVID is over with, but trying to prepare now for job preparation later. And I think the third one, well, it was a comment, and that is that I did see a news report showing MS Kick providing these meals from there to people in the neighborhood, as as it relates to this COVID deal. Anybody?
Commissioner Burrell, I'll get Ms. Barnett, because she was going to answer a question for Talia Farrow, so this would be a good time for her to answer that question on Southern, as well as the current fund balance, just for information.
Okay, my second question.
Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to answer Commissioner Talaferro. It's practice for us if there's a huge expenditure that a fund can't handle, to transfer from different areas, oil and gas being the one that gets touched the most. So that is standard practice. And then to Commissioner Burrell's question, the fund balance in oil and gas currently is 5.5 million.
So we don't have 250,000 out of 5.5 million that could go toward economic development on this particular project.
We do, y'all have to, we have $250,000. Y'all have to decide whether you want to use that money for this project or not.
Thank you, Ms. Barnett.
Okay, well, that goes to my other question. Why is the aerospace project, since it is kind of cutting edge for this area, and given the fact that we can't wait until COVID is over to start preparing for jobs, because you know what our economy looks like right now. We just got to investing into a teleconferencing center. Why is this not a priority? Is it that they don't have they don't have the wherewithal to put the program on, or I mean, I'm familiar with it because it used to be in my district, but why is it not of any urgency at this point?
Commissioner Burrell, is there a specific person that you're addressing to, or would you like me to?
Well, I know John Paul addressed it, and I know that Commissioner Jackson addressed it.
I'll answer Commissioner Burrell's question, if I may, just from my perspective.
I think, and Commissioner, in the essence of time, I believe Commissioner Burrell is looking for hard facts as opposed to opinions. Commissioner Burrell,
Sure.
I'll get you some hard facts on that and get back with you before Thursday.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know if these numbers are readily available, Commissioner Burrell. I don't think anybody is saying that aerospace is not a priority in the grand scheme of things. I don't know if the administration has these numbers readily available. If not, Dr. Wilson, if you could please provide them to Mr. Burrell. But we've provided aerospace technology with almost $1 million.
That's correct.
Over the last 3 to 4 years. And so at some point we have to have a conversation. So we're definitely not saying it's not a priority, but at some point we do need to have a conversation. And I've said this about all of our organizations is, how do we start the process of kind of weaning some of these programs off of the parish onto something else? And I've always had an issue with the fact that the funding for the aerospace program is going toward hangar rent. They're basically paying hangar rent at Shreveport Regional Airport. So again, I'm not saying it's not a priority. I think it is a priority. I think given our financial situation right now, I think what we asked them to do was prioritize what was their highest need in these set of funding requests. And I assume that nursing came back as the highest priority. What I'm saying is with the MS kick, I think they can get more money from COVID funding when we receive our COVID funding than the 50,000 that we're proposing now, that they're asking for now. And so I just kind of want to see how we can best help them. But I'm all for supporting in some kind of way, either way it goes. So I don't want anybody to think that I don't think either of these are priorities. So I want to be able to get them what they need. And
I guess
best
my
equip
question,
them to succeed.
not to cut you off, but I guess my question would be, you said that if you have a greater chance to get it from COVID. I thought COVID funds
from us.
Okay, so if we get COVID funds back to the parish, which I understand we may get an allocation, then wouldn't it have to be COVID related? How does this relate to COVID? This is job development. This is
no, I'm talking about the kick. I'm talking about MS kick. MS kick, I think they're feeding people through COVID right now. And so that, I think they can get more money for the MS kick through our COVID funding process.
Well, I was talking about
That's just
aerospace first.
I answered your
I was talking
aerospace.
about
I
aerospace.
indicated.
Commissioner Burrell, I'll get you the
yeah, sure.
information. I have a feeling that Commissioner Atkins is going to speak on this in a moment. He's, the facts are readily available. I think what you're asking for, we got.
Well, the reason why I was asking, Mr. President, was because we're supposed to be voting now to advance it. So if I don't have the information now, Thursday wouldn't do me any good, would it? Or do I understand the process?
No, you got it. We actually received a letter today via the email. Deputy Nation sent it to us that Ms. Sneed sent out information regarding the 3 different entities requesting money from Southern. That data should be on there, but I know in the past, we have a lot of information in regards to aerospace prior funding. I think it's $850,000. And we were given a report that I believe it was as recent as a month ago, maybe 2 months, on the amount of students that have passed or certified, and the AMP indications of what came from the aerospace school. But I'll yield to LBJ and then Commissioner Atkins and then Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. Want to, I guess, kind of talk and hit what we're trying to do here. So Southern has submitted 3 basically projects within one. We've been praising first responders and healthcare people, and what they're trying to do is put more nurses into our system. And with all of the facilities that we do have here, we need more nurses, and this is for registered nurses. So this would be a direct impact to us based upon those nurses getting out, getting their degrees, getting into the workforce, buying cars, buying houses, staying in Shreveport, and basically, put back into the system. I agree with you, the aviation program. We've put a lot of money into that. But at the same time, we just got, Global Airlines here. And I mean, how can we expect Global Airlines to stay here if they don't have the workforce there available in this area to support what they're trying to do? Maybe we should, redirect the money a certain different kind of way to Southern on that particular deal if we want to do aviation. But at the same time, I think that's important. If we just did an ordinance to do some $10 an hour jobs at a call center, and you talking about these mechanics will come in making about $30-some an hour, nurse is gonna make, I want to say, about $50 an hour as a registered nurse, or somewhere around about. It just doesn't add up when you're looking at it on the back end. The MS kick, I agree with what they had originally asked for, which was the 25,000. The other 25,000 with the help in the neighborhood of doing the food. I've always said that if a organization, and I'll go back to this, if an organization has already put a program out and they're doing it, then they had to fund some kind of way to do it. Same thing I said with LSU. I'm gonna say that's the part that was Southern on that particular deal on the feeding in the neighborhood. And if we're talking about having COVID money, I mean, typically the federal government is going to take about 2 years to get any of the money back after they go through and weed out what they want to pay and what they don't want to pay. So in oil and gas, that revenue, we still get money from oil and gas due to the fact that when we made the deal with the General Motors plant and Stu Ligner, he pays rent every month, which goes back into that oil and gas fund. So it's not like there's no money going back into that. And if I'm not wrong, is it about 65,000, 69,000 a month, Dr. Wilson? or Haley or
It's
Eric or somebody.
65,000 a month.
So 65,000 a month is going back into oil and gas to replenish it from what we did, the $7 million from the General Motors plant. So, you know, the ordinance we just did a minute ago is basically the same thing we did with the General Motors plant. You know, hoping that jobs would come, hoping that, you know, this, and we had clawbacks on that. And so that's why the rent is up to $65,000 is because there's no jobs that has been created there. And it's the same deal with what you're talking about with what we just voted on, and everybody voted for that. So now we come with Southern. Yeah, they've been to the table more than once, but the nursing program has actually proven itself, because the first request for nursing was to come in with the LPN program. Well, they had established that. They only asked for funding for that for 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. And so this one is expanding the nursing program into the adjacent building, the 610 Texas. So, I mean, I would think that somebody would make a motion to at least take, if it ain't 150, 100,000 for that, and the 25,000 for MS Kick, because MS Kick is about helping those entrepreneurs that might want to get into the restaurant business. So we coming off of a epidemic, a pandemic, and now people were trying to see how they can recover from that. And some of them are just going to be getting into they've been delayed from starting up a business. So, you know, how can we said this months ago, how can we help Caddo Parish? Well, here go 2 rays to help Caddo Parish right here. That's gonna have long-standing benefits, not just for 2 or 3 days or 2 or 3 weeks, but for years. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. My problem with the Southern request is not with their initiatives, it's with their scale. I asked them numerous times if they could dial their request back to a level that's more manageable for our budget. Remember that even before the coronavirus, we had a $450,000 annualized budget in economic development. And they are asking for $250,000 or $450,000 budget. I just think that's an inappropriate ask and out of scale with what they should be asking from us. That being said, they have submitted, I believe all of my colleagues should have on their email system 3 documents from Southern that lays out one document for each of these 3 requests around the aviation support, the MS Kick support, and the nursing support. With respect to aviation, I understand the aviation technician story, and I'm supportive of that story. But as many colleagues have already said, we've funded that for numerous years, and our return on investment has been very poor. I don't think it shows in that day in one of those documents that's attached, but there has been a letter circulated this year that Commission President Chavez had requested from aviation. And if my memory is correct, and it seldom is, but the general story of the effectiveness of that program is that we have less than a dozen graduates of that program working in aviation maintenance in our community right now. Some of the people start the program and don't finish. Some people finish the program, but then have to leave town to get their certificates. And then some people just don't, we train them here and then they go to work somewhere else. So those are problems that all industries struggle with, but I just don't think that Southern has proven that they can create a good return on investment from Caddo Parish's dollars. So for that reason, I'm not supporting funding additional aviation money for Southern. So I guess that's my in an ideal world, I would go with a very small allocation to Southern, but I think some of the requests for allocations towards nursing are practical and appropriate in today's time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Stormy, are you back on? Just want to make sure I give Commissioner Watts a chance to talk. She fell off.
Yes, I'm back on. Thank you, Mr.
Go
President.
ahead, Commissioner Watts.
Thank you for your patience. I would like to make a motion to appropriate 100,000 for the nursing program, 25,000 for MS KIC program, and 15,000 for the aviation program.
Second, Epperson.
Okay, and I'd like
Y'all
to speak on the motion.
Excuse me, this is Donna. Y'all have two amendments, I think, or two substitutes to the original motion already. Madam Clerk, is that correct?
We had a substitute motion from Commissioner Young, and then there was an amendment from Commissioner Jackson.
There's a substitute motion.
Right.
That's two.
So there's
So-
two
two
allowed
amendments.
under Robert's rules.
So Donna, let me ask a question.
Sure.
If I can withdraw my original motion and we work off those two, would that work?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
I will withdraw mine.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson, and that was Commissioner Everson that withdrew the second.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Now may I speak?
yes, go ahead, Stormy.
Okay, gentlemen, this is definitely a pipeline to prosperity through this request. I've listened to each of you and your concerns about these programs. The expansion of the nurses program, we have celebrated our nurses a lot during this pandemic. We call them our new heroes, but they always have been and they always will be. We know that this is a robust industry. We're talking about supporting high wage jobs. This is an educational component. We're talking about keeping our families in Caddo Parish. We're talking about tax dollars, land improvements, attracting more businesses. We are proactively investing in workforce development. This new normal that we are currently living will require us to take radical steps to improve the quality of life for the citizens of Caddo Parish. MS KIC has done a great job in providing meals during this pandemic, and they're easily accessible to educate people in health and wellness. The aviation aerospace program is imperative to support with the struggling airport in our backyard. We need to do everything humanly possible for them, not just to survive, but to thrive. I ask you for your support on this request holistically in investing in Southern University Shreveport's system and our future of Caddo Parish. Thank you.
Thank you,
Epperson
Commissioner.
request to speak.
Commissioner Epperson, go ahead.
Call for the questions on all motions.
Second.
Then Mr. Chairman, Mr. President,
Uh,
I had pushed the button that I had a question before for that.
You're correct. Commissioner Epperson, let me yield to Commissioner Burrell really quick. I was allowing you to speak because I thought you wanted to just speak on your second. We don't traditionally do that anymore, but I know that it was historical that you did that, so I wanted to give you that opportunity. But if we can allow Commissioner Burrell just to speak, and then we can go on with your motion.
Okay, I wasn't requesting on the second. I know that was just a common courtesy, that we were doing throughout the years. However, I was requesting because I had not spoken at all on any of this. There's been so much debate up to this point.
Commissioner Burrell, go ahead. You're not going to make a motion, are you?
No, sir.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and speak, and then we'll go with the commissioner's question. I know this is not an older commissioners, but on the Zoom meeting, Commissioner Epperson can't raise his hand, and I can't see him.
Okay. Well, I didn't. No, I wasn't making a motion. I was actually getting points of clarification because, in order for me to vote on anything, I want to be clear if that's possible. First of all, my first question, it may wind up going to Mr. Atkins. Did we set an artificial budget amount of 450,000 a year?
Mr. Chairman, do you want me to address that question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, it's only artificial in that it's what the body voted to establish, and it's similar to the level that's been established in the 5 years I've been involved with the commission. So it's a more of a historical precedent, perhaps.
Okay, then. So we are in unprecedented historical times, that this would be another piece of history that you'll probably tell your kids or family for. So I think that from that perspective, you know, when things are different, sometimes we have to do things differently. The second thing that I wanted to know, and it may come from you, Commissioner Atkins, do you have another project that you're looking at down the road, or we've identified the projects that we have for well, up to this point? I'm not saying it may be one that come across our desk next week, but are we anticipating another project right now?
I wish I had some project tucked under my cloak to pull out for you next week, but I do not. But I assure you that NLEP and our colleagues are working every day to bring additional projects that may require funding. So I'm all about getting a solid return on the Caddo Parish taxpayers' dollars on our economic development investments. And when we've backed certain organizations for a number of years and haven't received that return, it makes me hesitant to want to continue with that level of investment.
Well, my only issue is, and I know at the local level and at the state level, those things happen every day. But given the fact that we are in unprecedented times, and if you look at the national news, like I look at constantly every day, our focus is going to be thinking outside the box and trying to get any job opportunities in here as possible once this COVID thing dies down. I'm not saying it's going away, because it's not going away. So I'm just asking us to, you know, we can't do things like we've always done them. And I'm just asking us to look outside the box. That is not to say whether this is the best project or not. I know we have a bird in the hand right now. And if there's some way that we can help move it forward until things change, even if we reduce some of it, I think it's better than just drawing a line in the sand and said, okay, well, this didn't work, which in actuality it did. Maybe you didn't get the number of people certified as you wanted. Maybe some of the people did not stay here, just like we spend millions and millions of dollars on tops, and probably 75% of our kids it goes out of state because there's not a requirement there. So I look at it from a little different perspective than you do. All due respect, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're going to go ahead and take the motion for Commissioner Epperson's on the call for the question. Ms. Nations, please roll call vote.
Miss,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Jackson,
No.
Young,
Maybe I'm not clear.
This is calling for the question. Is that right?
That's
Right,
correct.
Commissioners, we're just calling for the question. Yes or no?
Okay.
If you want the question to be called, vote yes.
Okay.
Burrell?
Yes to the question.
Okay. Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Cawthorn,
Yes.
Gage Watt,
Yes.
Taliaferro, Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Atkins,
Yes.
Chavez,
No.
Lazarus,
Yes.
Epperson.
yes.
Okay, we have 10 yeas and 2 nays.
All right, the question has been called. We'll take them in order. Will you read the last one that Commissioner Watts made and seconded by Commissioner Epperson, and we'll vote on that?
Sure. Commissioner Gage Watts made a motion, seconded by Commissioner Epperson, to provide an appropriation of $100,000 to the nursing program at Southern University, $25,000 to MS KIC, and $15,000 to the aviation program at Southern University. Okay, Hopkins,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Jackson,
No. I mean, I'm
Young?
sorry. Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, Young, Commissioner Young,
Sorry, no.
Burrell,
Yes.
Cawthorn,
Hey, as a clerk, whose amendment are we voting on at this point?
Commissioner Watts.
Commissioner Watts, $100,000 to nursing, $25,000 to MS Kick, and $15,000 to aviation.
Okay, yes.
Gage Watt,
Yes.
Taliaferro,
No.
Atkins,
No.
Chavez,
No.
Lazarus,
No.
Epperson.
Yes.
We have 7 yays and 5 nays on that one.
All right, next.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner Epperson.
before we move on to the next item, may I do a point of information?
Absolutely.
For everyone that's involved, everything that we do in the work session is not set. The work session is made whereas we can question, gather information, and we can vote to either advance for formal action on Thursday, which gives you time to get any kind of pertinent information that you may need or may not have today. You are not voting on the final product today. This is just advancing to Thursday. You have Tuesday and Wednesday where you can gather further information before the final and official vote comes up. Thank you.
Commissioners, we're getting mentoring advice from the longest commissioner in Louisiana. So great advice. I definitely would pay attention. Thank you, Commissioner Epperson.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
based upon what Commissioner Epperson says, could we secure the additional information from Southern University on the aerospace program? Because I think there's some I'm not sure if it's misinformation or what have you. I know she explained it the last time she was here, dealing with graduation rates and where those where they wind up being in the end, that it wasn't that it was a failure. It's just a part of it was logistics. So, I just wanted to make sure that we are clear on, especially on the aerospace program, because I pay closely attention to that one, that particular area.
And Mr. President?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Taliaferro.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Burrell. I have reached out to Ms. Sneed, and she will be providing me with additional information to support their request. She did tell me that they do have a 90% placement rate for the medical program and the aerospace program. Now, I'm not sure which commissioner kind of brought this to our attention, but I do not know the number of graduating students. So obviously, that makes a big difference, but she's going to provide me with additional information that I requested so I can vote intelligently upon supporting them or not supporting them in the dollar amount therefore. So I just want to let the commissioners know that I'll make sure that she sends that out to all the commissioners, just not myself.
Thank you, Commissioner. And before we move along, I see Commissioner Hopkins.
Just a point of information, actually, these will be introduced on Thursday. It will lay over 2 weeks before we vote. So we've got time to look at different things.
Yeah, for all the new commissioners, whenever voting on money, it has to lay over twice for the second.
Any ordinance does.
All right, that's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hopkins. Moving along, Deputy Nations.
Okay, now we move to resolution number 28 of 2020, a resolution to amend the Caddo Parish Commission bylaws to require formal requests for commission appropriations to entities not part of
Move to advance.
Second.
That motion was made by Vice President Johnson and seconded by Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Johnson, would you like to speak on your motion?
Not right now.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Burrell.
I had asked, I think this is the one where we're modifying, I our procedures on non-government program. I guess I just want to ask Commissioner Johnson. I asked about it in committee, and he said that he would explain it here unless he decided to change that.
Well,
I'm waiting for somebody to say something that, I'm waiting for somebody else to say something. Then I'm getting on the board.
All right.
Okay.
Commissioner Hopkins, are you still on the board from prior, or would you like to talk on this?
No, well, I would want to talk, but I'd let the person who made the motion speak.
Right. Well, he yielded, but
Yeah, I'm a defer.
Okay. Commissioner Hopkins, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, what all will this entail? I mean, what are we looking at? Because we're adding something to our bylaws. I see that. Is it just NGOs, or is it across the board? Or
it's across the board. I mean, if any organization asks us for money, it should come in a formal request, either by letterhead, if it's a non-NGO or non-economic development type deal. It should come in a formal request, signed, letterhead, all that. If it's a NGO or economic development deal, then it should be done by application.
Okay.
We should not have a request for funds and there's not a formal request from that particular organization, regardless if it's an emergency or not.
The only thing I would say is, from time to time, we have things come through that actually are not coming from commissioners. It's coming through departments, maybe through public works stuff. I mean,
within our department, no. We're talking about outside.
Okay.
All right. I got Commissioner Jackson and then Atkins.
Yes, I'd like to make a substitute motion to refer this particular item to the Policies and Procedures Committee. So I get a second on.
Chair will second.
I saw this and one of my reasons is when we get ready to make changes, I think we need to have substantive discussions about making those immediate changes. Attorney Frazier, I heard Commissioner Johnson say even if it's in an emergency situation, but there are, when we become on the emergency order, Attorney Frazier, am I correct that we can't put a bylaw in place that augments or supersedes the state constitution? Is that correct?
No, but this would have no effect on that.
So if the state constitution gives the parish police jury or parish commission or city council or parish president the authority to make appropriations and bypass their bylaws, would this stop that?
No, but the Constitution doesn't do that. If some amendment was made where the Constitution did, then no, this would not supersede that.
Well, actually, Attorney Frazier, I need to send you an Attorney General's opinion, which speaks to the police jury and I believe Jefferson Parish and the parish president in Jefferson Parish, that does speak to the broad powers of the police jury and the broad powers of the parish president to do so in the event that there's a national or there's a disaster declaration or an emergency declaration in place. And so I think we need to vet this. I also want us to be mindful that we just did a $300,000, we just advanced a $300,000 deal. To me, Attorney Frazier, did we get a formal request from them or an application from them?
Not that I'm aware of, other than what was brought via Mr. Martinez to the committee meeting.
Right, and they do that to basically maintain the confidentiality of those deals. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But in this case, those individuals would be required or compelled to submit a request, a formal request, because they would be non-parish entities. Is that correct?
That would be correct under your bylaws.
And so, if this is enacted, is what you're saying.
If that is enacted.
So I just want the body I just, I'm not saying no to this, but what I'm saying is I think we need to find a way to do it right. I'm not opposed to it, but I think we need to find a way to do it right. I think we need to find a way to think it through and not necessarily do it in response to any particular thing. We need to take our time to get it right, because in this case, if this is enacted, we would not be able to participate in this economic development deal that was just brought forward. And so I would like to see us take our time to discuss, vet it, make sure we got all the things in place to get it right and get it done, and not necessarily unintentionally. I'm not saying it would be intentional, but unintentionally create two different paths to receiving parish support, as well as give our parish attorney the time to vet the legal aspects of it, because I know our charter suspends certain things with regard to emergency orders and national emergency declaration, as well as the state constitution gives us the opportunity because they understand that these things have to move pretty quick. Even our contracting, Dr. Wilson, am I correct? Our contracting is done differently. I'm sorry, Attorney Frazier, our contracting is done differently when we're under the emergency order. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So there are things that change when you're under an emergency order. I'm sorry, Attorney Frazier.
Your contracting rules can be suspended, but those are state rules.
Mhm.
Right. And so those things, that's why you have those emergency declarations in place. And that's why the state suspends certain provisions, because they recognize that things have to move a little quicker than they normally would. And so, just want to make sure we take that into consideration and give the committee an opportunity to vet it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. I got Atkins, LBJ, and then Burrell. Commissioner Atkins?
My question's been resolved. We can carry on.
Okay. Vice President Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, I want to make some clarifications. We do not have a parish president. We have a president of the commission, which is totally different from a parish president. We do not have a police jury. We have a parish commission body, which has a homeroom charter, which our charter is governing us as opposed to the police jury part of the state constitution. So let's throw that out the window on that part there. And reason I'm doing this is because we just allocated some money to LSU for this testing, but there was never a formal letter given to the body. There was no application done to the body. It was basically a commissioner with some emails and some phone conversations to say we ought to be doing this. There was also communication with other commissioners in which said, well, how much money is good for y'all, which was a whole lower amount. But when it was time to vote, that amount went up drastically. So I would like to have a formal request where it's in black and white, so that when a organization is requesting something, we know exactly what they're requesting, the dollar amount, and not having to go by what somebody else, a second party, would say. In emergency situations, I understand that there's things to do, but at the same time, a person can sit down at the computer and shoot that out and send that to us, because we're gonna have to have a meeting in order to diverse the funds in the first place. So they got plenty of time to do that, unless we call it special meeting. Now, we talking about within our department. I'm not talking about those. I'm not talking about from Public Works or some other department that needs emergency funding to do something, or if we needed to do something on a special cause. When you're talking about a company that coming in with a project, well, we all know they get a project name. And then what we all do too, if you're a part of that conversation, you sign an agreement not to talk about it. So there's provisions in place to keep you from doing that. Now, it's just like if I were to say that I know this organization that wants $100-some thousand, and I bring it to everybody, do this hell of a presentation, how it's going to impact so many people, within the inner city and the rural area to incorporate all the commissioners, then y'all will be on board. But you don't have a formal request from that organization. You just going by what I tell you, which I think is wrong. We should have that documentation in our hands, and we see what the documentation is and the request. That's the only thing I'm saying. And that's why I want to add this in, because out of the 9 years I've been here, this is the first time we've ever done anything like that. Everything else has been through a letter or an application or some other form of documentation. And not just one commissioner saying, well, this is what we want to do. Even when we started with LSU and the computer automation system, that was done through a letter. That wasn't done through a commissioner. He brought it up, but at the same time, he had a formal request. Southern University gives you a formal request every year. I just don't come down and say, well, Southern wants $200,000 or $300,000 for some programs. Y'all ask for additional information. A few minutes ago, you just asked for additional information about the aviation program. So you ask for additional information on some things, do it across the board. That's the only thing I'm saying. If some agency is asking us for money or organization asking for money, we should have something in black and white from them saying that this is our request and this is what we're going to do with it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrell.
Mr. Chairman, put me down, please.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
Well, you still muted.
Yeah, this may sound pretty simple, but when I first read it and the ordinance, and I looked and it says formal request, the first thing hit my mind, well, how do you find formal requests? Because some people will take a company's letterhead, other people will have to have resolutions, and others applications. So I think somewhere along the line, we need to define what that is, to be clear, because I keep hearing it thrown around, and you can get a form of request fixed up with a formal request. So somewhere along the line, I think that needs to be vetted, and so we'll know what we're looking for in terms of formal AL requests. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. I see no other commissioners on the board. Ms. Nations, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Epperson.
You're right. Commissioner Epperson.
Mr. Chairman, would you tell everyone what's the vote of a change to our rules?
It was the substitute motion by Commissioner Jackson was to send to the Policy and Procedures Committee.
No, not that. It's the vote in order to change.
Two-thirds.
Takes a two-thirds.
Yeah, super majority. I got you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Epperson, was that the point of clarification you wanted me to tell everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I just want to be clear, Attorney Frazier. The state constitution governs the Caddo Parish Commission as well, correct?
Correct.
So just because we're on the home rule charter doesn't mean that our charter supersedes anything that's in the state constitution. Am I understanding that correct? And so anything that they've identified in the state constitution as it relates to emergency orders, whether it's for a city council, whether it's for a parish commission, whether it's for a police jury, whether it's for a metro council, whether it's for a board of aldermen, we all fall up under that. And there's an attorney general's opinion that speaks to that. And so I don't want folks to think that I was trying to compare us to or indicate that we were something else. Commissioner Johnson, if you're going to spite me for the legislation that LSU Health Science Center put forth, that I put forth for LSU Health Science Center, do that. But I don't, I'm not saying I'm disagreeing with this. All I'm saying is I think we need to have a committee meeting to discuss how do we get it right. Attorney Frazier, I believe we have a meeting tomorrow, and I believe that we put the amendments in place that indicated that before we do any form of reimbursement, that the medical school would submit their proposal, they would submit a budget, and that they would submit documentation for reimbursement. So never did I come down here and ask the commission body to just give LSU Health Science Center a blank check for a certain amount. I never asked us to do that. We understood that time was of the essence. To get it ramped up and get it started would have to go pretty quick. I consulted with Commissioner Chavez, Dr. Wilson, and Eric Bryant the entire process. And so just like this deal came forward with the call center today, I didn't get all the information about it, but I reached out to Commissioner Atkins when he had questions about it, or when he sent us the information about it. I reached out, I asked him my questions, he reconciled my questions. Just like with LSU Health Science Center, I reached out to everybody, and I tried to reconcile all the questions that everybody had. And at that particular point, some folks' questions were satisfied and some unfortunately wasn't. And I understand that you have a right to just not agree, but I'm not gonna hold that against anybody for not agreeing. But to just put legislation in place just because one little thing happened under an emergency order, I think we as a body ought to at least give more due diligence and have more reason for cause for that. And so that's my position. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Vice President Johnson.
Yes, you know, and my point is this: if it slides through the crack one time, it'll slide through the crack again. You know, and Attorney Frazier, am I right or wrong? But when you're looking at the Louisiana statute on police jury, do we follow that statute?
I did not say we did, Attorney Frazier. I never said.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Attorney Frazier.
Commissioner, it depends on how analogous our situation as a.
Well, I'm talking about the section that says police jury. Right.
I'm sorry, but you all are trying to put it in a box that it does not fit in. The problem,
well, I'm just saying that.
I mean, both views have done that. If our situation as a commission form of government is analogous to the police jury situation, then we may take a look at that and use those. However, your charter generally governs your actions.
Thank you.
But it cannot supersede the state constitution.
It does not supersede the state constitution. However, you are bound to follow the state constitution within the parameters of your charter.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm not through. I was interrupted. No, I was interrupted. So when you look at the police jury section of the state constitution, state statutes, you will see that there's a part in there that talks about salary. Our salary supersedes what the state says that a police jury should make. And that's done only due to the fact that we have a homeroom charter. So what you're talking about, I fully understand. I go to state conventions, I go to the workshops, I read the state statute, I read our homeroom charter. I know that there are many differences in there, but I just wanted to make that clear. Now, we did do an emergency ordinance, but how is this an emergency when there's only been 3 testing sites done since the time we did the emergency? To me, if there was an emergency and the testing was done, it should be done either on a daily basis or every other day. I'm just saying, if it's an emergency,
that's not true.
That's my definition of an emergency, is that you will have that testing available either daily, every other day, but not one day this week, another day next week, another day the week after that.
That's not true, Commissioner.
You don't have the floor. Thank you.
But you're saying something that's completely false.
Right.
Epperson,
let's take this offline. Epperson right after Lazarus and after Burrell. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Call for the question.
Second.
Call for the question.
Second. All right, no other communication, call for the question.
So there's no point of clarification, huh?
No.
The only.
Well,
the only
I'm gonna take
clarification-
advantage just to shut you off whenever I don't want to feel like listening to you. I understand, you know, I understand the procedures and everything, but I think sometimes we cut short when you're in an issue that people need to understand because you're asking people to vote. But I'm not going to change a rule. I'll just use your rule on you. That would be good.
All right, we have a call for the question. Unfortunately, that means we cannot debate any longer. Ms. Nations, please roll call vote on calling for the question. If commissioners, if you want to continue the debate, you can always vote no. And if enough of us feel strongly that we want to continue discussing this, we go on that majority vote.
That's right.
I just need a clarification. At
Mr.
some
President.
point, I can ask that.
Okay, calling for the question.
Mr.
Hopkins?
President, one thing.
Yep.
I just want clarification for the question that we're calling for. So there's no miscommunication here, please.
So currently, what
All
we're doing,
discussion.
the call for the question is, first off, we're voting, are we going to vote on this or are we going to allow more debate? After we vote that up or down, if that happens, that we're calling for the question, then the next motion is Commissioner Stephen Jackson to move to a committee. And if that votes up or down, then it's the original motion to move.
Okay, so a
All right,
yes,
I'm on the zone with the commission.
well,
A yes vote on call for the question means we stop all debate and we
Okay.
vote on the substitute motion. A no vote allows us to debate longer. So if you'd like to
Perfect.
debate, vote no. And if we have a 7 majority vote, we will continue to debate.
thank you.
All right,
Okay, roll call. Hopkins,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Jackson. Jackson, you're muted.
No.
Young,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Hawthorne,
Yes.
H. Watt,
Yes.
Taliaferro,
Yes.
Atkins,
Yes.
Chavez,
yes.
Lazarus,
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
We have 11 yays, 1 nay.
All right, question has been called. We will vote on the substitute motion by Commissioner Jackson. The motion is to move to committee.
Okay. Hopkins,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
Jackson,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Hawthorne,
No.
Gage Watts,
No.
Taliaferro,
Yes.
Atkins,
Yes.
Chavez,
Yes.
Lazarus,
Yes.
Epperson.
No.
We have 8 yays, 4 nays.
All right, moving along.
Now we move to authorize resolution number 29 of 2020, a resolution proclaiming April 25th, 2020 as Abdul Diabetes Walk Day in Caddo Parish.
So moved for resolution 29 and 30.
Second.
Second.
All right, we got a motion for in global and advanced 29 and 30 and a second. Was that Commissioner Epperson?
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on your motion?
No, sir. These are just resolutions acknowledging these days. Thank you.
All right. I see no other commissioners on the board. Please vote.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yeah. Yes.
Hawthorne,
Yes.
H. Watt,
Yes.
Taliaferro,
Yes.
Atkins,
Yes.
Chavez,
Yes.
Lazarus,
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Okay, we have 12 yays. Now we move to authorize appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals, authorize appointment of Mr. Huey Horn to the Zoning Board of Appeals, term to expire April 30th, 2025.
Move to advance.
Second.
By the chair.
Second.
Got a motion from Commissioner Atkins. Would you like to speak on that motion?
Yes. As mentioned earlier, there's a member of the zoning board who's been a member, a faithful and serving member for 12 years, but I think it's important that we rotate fresh blood onto that committee from time to time. And this individual, Mr. Horn, comes highly recommended as a savvy, business-focused individual who'd be a nice contribution to the board. I'd like y'all to consider this proposal. If others would like to submit additional names, we can evaluate that process as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrell.
I was just going to ask Commissioner Atkins, are we replacing someone that is term that's up, or we're just adding a new person to the Zoning Board of Appeals?
There's an individual whose third term is expiring after 12 years.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Commissioner, for the information. I see no other commissioners on the board. Please vote to move to Thursday.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Hawthorne,
Yes.
Gage Watt,
Yes.
Taliaferro,
Yes.
Atkins,
Yes.
Chavez,
Yes.
Lazarus,
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Okay, we have 12 yays. Now we move to communiques and committee reports.
I'd like to communicate, Mr. Chairman.
You can lead us off, Commissioner Epperson. Go ahead.
Okay, just wanted to remind us that tomorrow, May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo, recognizing our Mexican culture and heritage, not to be confused with September the 16th, which is Mexican Independence Day. The prominence of Cinco de Mayo came into play in 1980 out in California, where they recognized our Mexicans and Mexican Americans and the people of non-Mexican heritage, their historical, national, ethnic, and cultural contributions to our society. And on a personal level, I'd just like to mention two of my mentors that I always like to read about ever since making friends with a lot of my Mexican fellow soldiers in the military. And that's Zapata, and his favorite saying that I always like to refer to, he'd rather stand and die standing up than on his knees begging. And also another one of my favorite mentors is Cesar Chavez, whom out in California back in the days when the migrant workers would go out and pick fruits and vegetables, come from all over the United States. You had the Mexican immigrants, you had the blacks that came from the southern states as far as Louisiana, Mississippi, to go out to California and pick vegetables. Plus you had some whites from the poor neighborhoods and areas of the United States that came out, and the farmers and the growers pitted them against each other. And Cesar Chavez was the one that got in and interceded and tried to make it palatable for everybody where they could get along and get a decent wage. So let's not forget about tomorrow, Cinco de Mayo Day, not just for drinking beer. When you look at a little of the history of it, I think Cinco de Mayo in the United States, there's more beer that's sold only next to the Super Bowl. But as to the Mexican heritage and culture that they have instituted on behalf of our United States of America, we want to honor them. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to make an announcement and to thank the parish employees and personnel, Dr. Wilson. We've been doing the COVID testing. I do want to clear up, there was a comment that said that they've only done 3. Just know that there are several teams. Dr. Vancheri has been leading a team of individuals who go out. As I mentioned earlier to Mr. Burrell, Dr. Vancheri leads the team who goes out to the independent living facilities and is doing testing with some of the senior residents. And so that is going on in concurrence with the mobile testing. You hear a lot about the mobile testing, then you hear about the testing at the senior facilities, because the senior facilities, they have a captive audience already. And so, and there is no one at this particular time that is allowed in those senior facilities. So everybody can't come to those senior facilities, but the mobile testing in the neighborhoods, yes, those testing are underway. We got rained out for Moortown, but that has been rescheduled for May 12th. Very successful day, Commissioner Cawthorn, very successful day in Cedar Grove this past weekend. And then we had a very good day, Commissioner Johnson, in the MLK area. We'll be back in the MLK area this weekend. And again, I want to urge commissioners to understand that that van is serving all of Northeast Louisiana. I'm going to send an email out today that shows a map of some of those hot spots. Commissioner Lazarus, Keyville, fortunately, is not a hot spot by LDH, but Southern Hills is, Commissioner Chavez, and a large swath of Southern Hills. So we may have to have a conversation with you about getting out there. And Commissioner Atkins, I see down Ellaby Road. And so you can see that map. You can play and pull on that map about where those areas are, but there's an actual map that's been released by LDH about those hot spots. Dr. Wilson, I sent you, Erica, and Haley that email about guidance on the funding for the CARES Act. There's going to be $810 million that's going to be split by local governments. And so we'll have an opportunity to vie for a piece of that. Some of these funding pieces here, I do want to get with Attorney Frazier to talk about how we make sure that it's in response to COVID-19 so that we can capture. One of the things that Commissioner of Administration Jay Darden said was he didn't think that governmental bodies would have enough expenses to use right now. So I'm suspecting it's going to be a very large sum of money for parishes. And he's afraid that we won't have enough expenses to be able to claim that. Plus you also have the FEMA emergency relief funds that are out there as well. But really want to thank the parish staff that have been supporting the mobile testing and the testing out in the areas. Tim Weaver, his guy Tom, and I can't remember my other guy who has the long hair. They provide signs. They're there. They're the first ones, Dr. Wilson, they're the first ones on site. And so when I arrive, they're already there. And so again, we want to thank them for their effort. And, you know, they're excited to be out there, which is good for us. So we appreciate your support, and tell Tim, I appreciate him and his team for helping us out. And I appreciate Crystal as well. She works on the communications team to help get the information out to the public. And so it's an all hands on deck. We'll have a conference call tomorrow. And if anybody ever wants to know or need any information about it, just let us know. Todd, we're going to try to get back to Vivian very soon. So we're working very diligently on it. So appreciate it. Just want to encourage everybody to stay safe and mask up. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Burrell.
Just a point of clarification on these testing sites. I know Queensboro Country Club area, parts of Highlands, Ingleside is probably one of the larger areas in the city, central, but I'm not sure where they're supposed to go for testing.
We are there. There's going to be a new round of testing dates and locations. Commissioner Burrell, that map that LDH. So what we were basically doing was operating off the information that the mayor had at first. And so we now have a map that's out from Louisiana Department of Health. As you know, Governor Edwards has a very ambitious goal of doing 100,000 to 200,000 tests a day. And so we've been in conversation with his office about how we're going to incorporate into that initiative. And so, yes, Queensboro is one of those areas. I don't know if it goes too far down to Ingleside. It looks like it cuts down, but it depends on how you define Ingleside. But there is a portion of Queensboro and Lakeside that look like it's called in there. I didn't see Allendale, but I'm going to play with the map a little bit more. And Dr. White, she has the map, as well as the folks at LSU Health Science Center. So now we actually have the data to drive where the van will go. And so definitely every time we get to somebody, we get in touch with that commission in that area.
Well, I'd like to get an idea of the map, because people are asking, and I did not see on the first round a location near District 5, which includes Queensboro and Ingleside and Country Club, part of Country Club and that type of thing, down to Hollywood. Mm-hmm.
And let me just add that part of this is it also requires to have hazmat. You have to have hazmat mitigation plans in place as well. FEMA, as well as the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, requires hazmat plans in place. And so that's also, we have to find a facility in that area that has that capacity to do hazmat disposure because of the virus and some of the stuff, it looks like what's the word? I don't know, but it looks like a viral kind of thing that's going on. Yeah. So yeah. So it's very serious, and they require that you have the hazmat site. And so we may have to get with Dr. Wilson about seeing if we can contract with somebody with hazmat services to come pick up and deliver all that stuff. So, but that is one of the reasons why you did not see Queensboro and Pines Road on the first round, because we've got to identify a place. The schools have it, and so we've got to identify, probably get with the school board to make sure that we can have it at those particular locations.
All right, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. I see no other commissioners on the board. Oh, Commissioner Atkins, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner Jackson, you mentioned testing in Northeast Louisiana. I think you did mean Northwest Louisiana. Is that correct?
It is. No, what I was saying was the van that LSU Health Science Center covers, it covers Northwest all the way over to the Monroe line. And so they cover a very large swath of places. So Northwest as well as Northeast Louisiana. I think this week they'll be in Bastrop sometime, and they'll be in Haynesville later this week. So they're going deep into the rural areas. And again, so that's why we want to have a conversation about probably dedicating a van specifically for Caddo Parish, because we are the urban center for this reason. So yes,
okay,
it is Northwest as well as Northeast.
Thank you. And I just wanted to mention to my colleagues, I have some extra masks. If any of you all in your districts need additional masks, I have a few I can share, a few dozen I can share. Also, I want to remind everybody that, as we increase our testing, we're likely to increase the number of reported cases of the virus. But that doesn't mean that there's more virus than there was before we did the testing. It just identifies more cases. So I don't want us to be panicked if we see numbers increase as our testing increases. The virus is already out there. There's lots of people working and going through their daily life with the virus. So let's not panic as we increase our testing and see additional viruses being reported. And lastly, I'd like to remind everybody that we do need to protect lives, but we need to protect livelihoods as well. So let's keep a balanced perspective as we go through this, and not let our vigilance in protecting our health lead to the destruction of many people's livelihoods into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Burrell.
Well, Commissioner Atkins, I appreciate your observation, but I take a little different position, Because if we don't know that they're out there and we're not, and we're not testing properly, then we do have people out there who may be spreading it. So I think it's not a matter of panicking. It's a matter of actually identifying and educating the public that that this virus is out there and in this density. And I think it's, you know,
I don't debate that. I don't debate that, Commissioner Burrell.
Well, I just don't want us to not recognize how serious it is because we haven't identified the people who are out there. I would rather know who I'm dealing with or working with or going or coming in contact with than to not know and feel comfortable that, hey, look, I can pretty much go out in an environment and expose myself, especially where I am. I've never really thought of my age as being a hindrance, but I'm beginning to feel that way as I see more and more testing creating more and more density in terms of the number of people who they are identifying. It's not that they are not out there, it's just that we have not identified them. And I just don't want us to be too comfortable with that.
If I may rebut Commissioner Burrell, I think we're violently in agreement with each other. The testing will just identify additional people that may already be out there. And I support additional testing. I'm not opposed to that.
Thank you.
Amen. Lives over livelihood.
Well.
All right, no more commissioners on the board. We move along.
Now we go to citizens' comments, late arrivals. I have not received anything.
I haven't either.
Okay, now we move to consent agenda.
So move for adjournment.
Second. All right, commissioners, have a great evening. See you on Thursday. Thank you, Ms. Nations.
You're welcome. Y'all have a good one.
Bye-bye.